We as UKIP are known for Europe and immigration. Those are our two main issues. But tonight I want to do something a little bit different. I want to focus on some of the more domestic issues. We're passionate about Europe, we're passionate about immigration, but we're also passionate about domestic policy issues. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the environment, local government, energy and the health service. On energy, the three old parties have a joint approach on energy. They are determined to hammer the British people with higher green taxes. They believe that climate change is the greatest threat to mankind and is caused by us. They are obsessed with this climate change mantra because they see it as a vehicle for the government to take away more of people's money. The green agenda is big government at its worst, in my view. We in UKIP, yet again, like so many other policy areas, have a totally different approach on the environment and energy to the three old parties. We start from a sceptical base on climate change, as the science is much divided as to whether it's a man-made phenomenon or it's a natural phenomenon. Even if climate change was a man-made phenomenon, it's questionable even if you think about it. You have to ask yourself the question, is it really worth us in Britain destroying our economy just to try and save 0.02% of carbon emissions that we produce? Especially when you consider that China and India, who produce far more CO2 emissions, are building more coal-fired power stations every single week. The Climate Change Act, which was introduced by Ed Miliband, supported wholeheartedly by David Cameron, has cost the British economy an estimated £18 billion a year. That's nearly £500 for every household in the UK. So we would scrap this act. EU renewable targets mean that taxpayers' money subsidise wind farms that require gas-powered backup when the wind doesn't blow. The EU Large Combustion Plant Directive will shut many vital oil and coal-fired power stations in 2050. Ofgem are warning that these plant closures could cause blackouts within the next 2 years. So we want to reduce fuel poverty. Outside the EU, we can abolish EU laws that add hundreds of pounds to the household energy bills of Britons. EU rules keep the energy bills high by forcing taxpayers' money into wasteful wind turbines and solar arrays. We are against wind turbines for many, many reasons. First, they're an ineffective form of energy production. They cost a lot of money, they create hardly any energy, and they ruin the landscape. Most of the time when it's windy, they have to turn off the turbines. I often ask myself, what is the point of these ugly structures that are being planted all around our countryside when they're so ineffective? We want to see cheaper petrol and diesel. UKIP will seek to reduce duty and reduce the disparity in price between diesel and petrol. Fuel duty is too high and it has held our economy back. We have to invest in nuclear power and clean coal to avert Britain's impending energy crisis. We oppose ineffective wind turbines and would stop renewable subsidies that make the rich richer and the poor poorer. So on the environment, our green and pleasant land needs to be protected. Green spaces are threatened by large developments of housing, which is pressure caused by the mass immigration policy of the three old parties. Nick Bowles, a planning minister, has said this: vast swathes of the countryside will have to be sacrificed to build new homes for immigrants. Migrants account for almost half the housing boom, and 100,000 new homes a year will be needed to accommodate them. We in UKIP say no to this. We say no to excessive housing development. Green spaces should be protected. We should oppose excessive housing development, wind farms and HS2. HS2 is a massively expensive waste of money. They're saying it will be £50 billion. I have no doubt by the end of the project it'll be more like 70 or 80 billion, because we all know government projects never run on time and never run on budget. HS2 will do nothing for the north and nothing for the northeast of Britain. It cuts journeys from London to Birmingham by 20 minutes. And by the way, newsflash to Westminster, the north doesn't end at Leeds and Manchester. A far better use of that 50 billion would be to improve the existing infrastructure of the rest of the country. And we would reduce the pressure on housing by ending open-door immigration. We oppose the bedroom tax, but we'd provide incentives to reuse empty homes. We've got to protect our green spaces by directing new housing and business developments to brownfield sites. We stop preferential treatment to special groups such as travellers. Rules should apply equally to everyone. That is fair. On local government policies, what is the heart of our local government policies? No whip on UKIP local councillors. We want our local councillors to stand up for their local communities and not to focus on towing the party line. Councils should cut highly paid council executives, not frontline staff and services, which are the most important thing. Real decision making should be given to local communities. In council chambers, UKIP councillors are fighting for older people's services, they're fighting to save post offices, fighting to protect green spaces, opposing parking charges, road tolls, fighting against wind farms and overbuilding large housing developments. So our plan for local government, because we do have local elections as well as the European elections. Local referendums. It's time to bring power back to the people. So major decisions should be subject to binding local referendums if people demand it. On the petition, by 5% of the population, within 3 months, major planning and service provision decisions should be put to a local vote. Such things as large housing developments, supermarket developments, wind turbines, incinerators, solar farms, major housing developments and transport schemes like HS2. We'd regain control over development. Our housing, education, health and social services cannot cope with a consistent rising number of people coming to live and work in Britain. The government is now riding roughshod over local people's wishes with a mass housing building that has become a developer's charter, without the new services to go with it. We prioritise services for local people. We must end benefit and health tourism and give priority to local people for housing, education, health and social services. In planning, local people's opinion should be respected and not overruled. We're moving government closer to the people. We want to provide incentives to encourage enterprise, attract jobs and regenerate town centres, including developing empty properties and brownfield sites to meet local housing needs. We cut councillors' excessive expenses and allowances. Some of them are completely and utterly ridiculous. When I was on Stockton Council for 4 years as a councillor, councillors claiming for food. I mean, it's ridiculous that councillors can even claim for food. If they want to get food when they're going to a meeting, they should pay for it themselves. They shouldn't put it on the taxpayer. We should slash executive pay deals for senior council staff. We should limit the number of highly paid council employees. We should cut the council's advertising and self-promotion budgets. And trust me, I've seen some of these budgets. These budgets can sometimes be some of the highest budgets in the councils. It's crazy that they spend so much on advertising and self-promotion. We should build partnerships to reduce costs. We should abolish non-essential and politically correct jobs and red tape. We've got to close unnecessary central government departments and quangos. This country spends nearly £80 billion on quangos every year. Now, if there's cuts we can make, surely that's where we've got to start. And the last issue I want to come to is the health service. Now, there is a lot of nonsense put about on our position in the National Health Service. We saw it yet again 2 weeks ago on the Sunday Politics, when the Labour lead candidate once again repeated a lie. Of course, our lead candidate, Jonathan Arnott, put it right. The lie that UKIP want to privatise the health service. Let me say this very clearly. That is a lie. It is untrue. We support the National Health Service. Free at the point of use, we always have and we always will. And let's remember that it's the Labour Party that started the privatisation of the health service. PFI that cost the country billions and contracting out of services via foundation hospitals to the private sector that started under Tony Blair's Prime Ministership. So the Labour Party have got nothing to say about health privatisation. We oppose privatisation. We support the National Health Service in public hands. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. We in UKIP support the great institution that our National Health Service is. Our approach to the health service is we would put local communities at the heart of healthcare. We oppose cuts to frontline doctors, surgeons, dentists and nurses. We want to reduce the number of managers and executives. We create more community support for people with disabilities. We hire and train more vocational nurses, midwives and health visitors. We restore free NHS dental checkups and eye tests. We'd end health tourism by requiring non-EU citizens to pay. If you haven't contributed to the system, then you shouldn't be able to get anything out of it. That is a fair principle. So, as you can see tonight, UKIP have lots of policies in lots of other areas, from the environment, energy, local government, the health service. We are the party taking the fight to the three old parties. We have a full manifesto, and let me assure you, this party is here to stay. British politics is changing, and changing fast. People are crying out for a real alternative to deliver change to Britain. In UKIP, we are the real alternative to the three old parties of failure. So on May 22nd, in these European elections, and local elections in some parts of the North East, let's together create that earthquake in British politics that will lead to real change in Britain. Thank you.